Welcome to Cozy3D, Grab a Hot Beverage, and let's learn about how Cozy3D art is made. Today I talked to Anastasia Shedu, who I first learned about when I first saw her super cute Ghost and Shrine scene, which you can see on screen right now. And actually today she made like a specific model just for this podcast, which is like super cool. And yeah, she now works as a 3D environment artist at Massive Miniteam on an unannounced project, and she's going to talk a little bit about her, more technical process today. Welcome, Anastasia.
Hello, really happy to be here. So basically, this whole checklist started when I was working at Massive Miniteam. I'd be happy if it would be helpful to anyone who would check it out. It mostly for simple assets that don't require sculpting or anything. It's usual high poly to low poly and minimal topology. Then you would bake it. Then you would texture it in Substance Painter, and then probably you're gonna import in Unreal.
All right, so how do you make a cute little toaster with your workflow?
Yes, you're gonna start with the high poly. As you can see here in the screenshot, I also have this in Blender. Let me
Ah,
read. Spoilers.
spoilers.
So yeah, how I prefer to work, especially in fast-paced environment where you need to produce lots of models in a short amount of time. I really like to use modifiers. You can basically build high poly with modifiers, and then you can reuse the same model as a low poly by simply turning those modifiers off and then just doing some like a little bit of optimization, and then it works. So first thing that you need to do is to prepare your high poly. And high polys, they don't have that much of check marks that you need to make sure that you follow them. All you need to do is to make sure that your model is has a correct size, because like I don't really like when you model something and then once you import it inside Unreal, you need to rescale it. I think it's kind of inconvenient, especially for people who would
Hmm.
also work with your models. So it's best to start with correct size. For that, you can like place a cube, you can place a person, for example, and just basically make sure that everything is correct. Another thing is you need to make sure that normals looks nice. And it doesn't matter if the geometry is crap, so don't worry about that. For example, this one, if subdivision artists would see this terrible topology, they would just, I think, scream, but it kind of works. So yeah, because once I beveled and subdivided it, it kind of looks nice. It's still shading correctly, so that all that matters. High poly should look nice. It doesn't necessarily need to be all quads and perfect geometry. So yeah, just make sure that shading looks correct.
Hmm.
Another thing, that meshes must be properly named. This has to do with the baking process, because in Substance Painter you can use this really handy feature of baking by mesh name. And I provided a link to this guide of how you can call everything. And basically, yeah, it's just body high main, body high sticker, and so on. It's just make sure that it's named correctly. And then the last thing is, apply vertex colors. Actually, really useful. Apply vertex colors just to ease your life in the texturing process, because you would be able to use those vertex colors to quickly apply masks in Substance Painter, and it's really nice to do that. I
Hmm.
always forget to do that, actually. So that's why I put it also in the checklist, so I will remember myself, because it's really helpful. And that's pretty much it for the high poly. Once it's done, I will move on to the low poly process. Um, Sometimes you would also have sculpting phase in between, but here I'm talking about just like the simplest mesh with just like a little bit of bevels and subdivision. So
Right.
once we Mhm.
Yeah, just like the main reason why you do a lot of with modifiers, I guess, is because you can make changes more easily, right? And like quicker.
Yes, like for example, if I would get a feedback, okay, so let's make this angle more sharp or make this model more tweaked or something. If I have it in modifiers, it's so easy to tweak. It's just
Hmm.
crazy how easy it is. And I would encourage you to look into modifiers and look into non-destructive workflow because it helps tremendously and it saves so much time in the long run.
For sure. Like I remember you were telling me before about like a way to use the bevel modifier with like weights basically. And I didn't know that was a thing before, and like now I do it like all the time. Like it
Oh yeah,
really
it's so cool.
completely changed my workflow. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really happy. Yeah, I'm also a biggest fan. Like I think here I have this. And also what's another cool trick is that you can manually control every bevel. So let's say this one is just one. And
Right.
basically I'm telling to Blender that I want it to be beveled. But let's say I want this edge loop to be sharper. I would assign a bevel weight of 0.5 and that would make it sharper. And that's really, really flexible workflow.
Yes, it's so cool.
So yeah, highly
Nice.
recommend.
Nice. And after you have done the high poly, you do all the baking, all the texturing in Painter, right?
Yeah, I wish, but no. First, we need to
No?
prepare the low poly, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So with low poly, I would usually just duplicate the whole thing, and it's already unwrapped here, but we can look at it like this, for example. Yes. So I would just remove all the bevels and all the subdivision modifiers, and then I would optimize geometry a little bit here and there. I would usually leave out loops that don't affect silhouette. Let me check my low poly checklist. Yes, so first thing, the same location. That's pretty easy because we just duplicated the high poly.
Hmm.
That's fine. Matches might be properly named. That's also pretty easy. In Blender, you have batch renaming, so all you would need to do is just exchange high to low. And in order to do that, you would just need
Wait,
to
there's
select all of
batch
them.
renaming? I didn't
Yes,
know
there's.
that. Oh, that's good to
Yeah,
know. I always did it manually. Oh.
yeah. I think I stumbled upon it somewhere like when I was looking at Blender manual files and it was like, oh, gee, it's so useful. So yeah, you can press Control F2 and then you would say, okay, so I
Oh,
want to
wow.
rename all height and replace it with low. It is, yeah.
This is gonna make my life so much easier. Thank you so much.
So yeah, we need to make sure that all the names are correct for the baking process.
Hmm.
We need to make sure that we planned for stuff that we want to be duplicated or using symmetry. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Then we need to make sure to optimize the topology. And that depends from project to project, but usually I would just leave stuff that affect silhouette and where we want to have seam. Because, for example, here we have this toaster. No, it's a toast. We have this toast.
Hmm.
And in the middle, we have this edge loop, and it doesn't contribute to the silhouette like in any way, but we need to keep it because this is the seam where we have the mirror modifier. So it allows us to mirror the stuff from left to right. So we
Right.
need it. And yeah, so quite easy stuff. Yeah, what I really like to do is, for example, here, um, I would just select this whole edge loop. Well, no, you know what? Let's say we want to optimize this edge loop.
Hmm.
I would select this, then I would select next one, then I would press this handy combination of Control Shift Plus
Hmm.
to select every second edge, and then I would just say edge collapse, and it's optimized. Cool, but we don't need that. But that's usually how it go about like edge loops that I need to make more optimized. Then yeah, another really important thing that we need to triangulate the mesh that affects the baking process. And the reason why I've been doing that is that because triangulation from Blender to Unreal, let's say, is really different. And sometimes it can screw up your normal maps. So it's really important to do that. But also do that with modifiers because it's really flexible. Just assign this triangulate modifier and you're good to go. Next one, make sure your low poly mesh has a scale of 1. That's pretty easy. We do that because we need to unwrap models in the future for the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to calculate textile density. And if the model scale is incorrect, this textile density calculation would be wrong. So make sure to have your scale equals 1.
And you could do that with Control A, apply scale.
Yes, exactly. So you press Control A and you can apply scale. Check if normals are correct. Shit happens. Um, in order to do that, I usually have in Blender UI, let's say, okay. Wait. So yeah, I have it visible that it's kind of pinkish. So I would know if something is, for example, if it's wrong, I will see it right away because in the Blender user interface, I made it so back faces are having this kind of pinkish shade. So yeah, watch
Ah,
out for
okay.
that. Yeah, kind of handy because I always forget to check normals. And here would be super obvious that you, oh, shit, something's wrong. Check if there is non-manifold geometry. It's optional, but sometimes, you can have, because especially it's Blender, you can do crazy shit in here. But sometimes you can have like a vertex just heading around and it's kind of forbidden. So just make sure you don't have anything like this. Oh, by the way, I can also show how you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go into vertex selection and then just go select all by trait, non-manifold, and uncheck boundaries. And then it will actually show, okay, we have one vertex selected, and it's this one, and it's non-manifold. So this way you can check if you have something wrong with your model.
Ah, yeah.
So let's delete this vertex. And then that's pretty much it. Yeah, the last thing that you need to do is assign the material with the correct name. So if you're going to work in games, you would probably need to follow this naming convention. And there's this whole guide about how you should name things. And just basically, if you have a material, you can name it either M or MI. So that's what I have here. I have bread, and then star, and so on. And that's it. You're done. Your low poly for bacon is all set up and ready to be baked and textured.
Nice. I already learned like so much. It's great.
I'm really
there's
happy to
there's
hear.
there's so many things you do which like actually like speed up things a lot for you, which I guess like helps you a lot like day to day because as you mentioned you're like in quite of a fast paced environment usually with game development. Um,
Hmm.
so this is like super interesting to hear about how you do those little things to like save you some time.
Oh, yeah. Also, sometimes when you're really in a rush, I would actually forget to check for non-manifold stuff, for example, and some other stuff. But having this checklist and like checking, okay, so did I do everything correct? Because yeah, I can forget. It's really helpful. And having also steps kind of help to make sure that everything is correct and adjustable. And yeah, so it's pretty useful.
Mhm.
But yeah, we also have this unwrapping step, which we also need to do. And yes, so let's talk about this fun stuff. Lots of people don't like unwrapping, but I quite enjoy it.
Same. I don't know why people hate it so much. Like it's quite,
Right?
it's relaxing. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're doing the like some paper crafts. And you can
Mm.
also put some nice music and chill, and I don't know, it's kind of meditating.
Mm.
And how do you feel about topology?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't like read topology.
Same. I don't know. It's like you would guess like people like if they like unwrapping, they also like topology. But yeah, I like unwrapping, but I hate topology.
The thing with unwrapping is you can like turn your brain off because like usually it's like not that complicated. Like you straighten some UV islands, you're trying to maybe fit stuff together, trying to mirror some stuff, and that's it basically. And then with retopology, sometimes it's like, how does this work? I don't know. Like at least for me, that's the experience. And then I like do like 10 versions. I'm like, finally it clicks. I'm like, oh, this is how.
Yeah. And at the end, you're like, oh yeah, it's so easy, solve this. But you came like you sweat so much on the like in the process while trying to achieve this topology. Oh,
Hmm.
terrible.
Hmm.
So yes, unwrapping. So first thing that we need to decide is what is the textile density. Usually, you can get help from your team, or you can figure out yourself. But usually, like the most common ones are these numbers. And for this project, I think I use the first one, 2 and 56. How you can measure textile density is you go into unwrapping, you select, let's say this island, and then you can use this textile density add-on, which is really helpful and useful. And I think it's also free.
Hmm.
I think it's one of the must-haves. And then yeah, you just press calculate textile density, but also don't forget to put texture size, because for example, with this texture size, this textile density is this, but if you would make it smaller, suddenly it's way smaller. So yeah. So figure out your textile density.
Right. Just to quickly mention for people who never heard about the word text density, what it is. It's basically a way to have like consistent resolution of the textures like in your scene. So it's basically you want so and so many pixels of texture per meter or per centimeter. That's basically what texture density is.
Yes, thank you so much. I always have such a hard time explaining this because you kind of get it. It's just you're trying to make sure that all the checkerboard is like equally distributed everywhere, but it's kind of technical, yeah, it's hard to explain. But you do such a great job. Yeah. Yeah, maybe later we can also provide some guides because I also read a lot about it somewhere, but I forgot. Yeah. Anyways,
Anyways, texture density, important.
excellent.
So you
Super
don't have
fun.
like one texture super blurry and one texture super high resolution. That's kind of why you do it.
Yes. Exactly. But sometimes you want to break this rule because let's say we have this bottom plane. Nobody gonna see that, but it would still probably like it would be nice to texture it anyways. But what you can do, you can scale it down a little bit. So you would allocate more space to more important areas like the face of this toaster. So that's another thing. You need to watch out for textile density, but you also can break those rules in places where it doesn't really matter, like here.
Yeah, and then also the opposite is true as well. Like often, for example, if you have a first-person shooter, then the weapons might have a higher texture density than the level, for example.
Yes, exactly. So, and then we move on to the unwrapping process, which is basically applying seams and then, yeah, basic unwrapping. So there are a few rules. One is, as much as I understood, it's kind of optional, but it helps with getting better bake results. This is a rule that every time when you have 90-degree, let's go here, this sharp 90-degree angle, in order for normal map to bake, I guess more nicely, you can make like mark it sharp and put a seam on it. But also what I found out recently is that actually character artists, for example, usually don't do that. They would just smooth the whole model, even in places where an environment artists would put like a sharp edge and put a seam on it. They would just smooth the shit out of the whole model, and that it still looks fine. So I don't know. Interesting. So, but yes, you can do that if you want to. I did that on every sharp angle. And yeah, but don't forget that on every sharp angle, you should have a seam, but not every seam is supposed to be a sharp angle. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Then about the UV islands themselves. Yeah, so I guess try to make edges straight if it's possible. It helps with the LODs as much as I heard, and also with packing everything like neatly and nicely. Um, try to make things horizontal or vertical. And what else? Yeah.
For straightening, do you also use UV Toolkit? I just saw it in your add-ons. That's what I use for it.
Oh yes, it's really useful actually. They have this thing where, let's say you have this, okay, like this,
Oh
and then
no.
you will, terrible, right? So you would select this thing, and then you can press this button which is straight UV, and you have a strip. Really useful.
Yeah. I think it's free as
And
well, if I remember correctly. I think UV Packmaster was paid, but I think UV Toolkit was free or something like that.
yeah, I don't remember. Maybe I paid for the like extended version, which is paid, but I don't remember. But anyways, we can provide. Oh no, it's
Oh
not
no, you
straight.
messed it up.
Okay, let's leave it. Sometimes you have this thing. We just so yeah, we will provide also links for add-ons that I used and mentioned. And what else? So use UV islands, no distortions. Once you're gonna get to the plugin, make sure to have some edge padding.
What
And
is edge padding?
oh, the edge padding. So basically, when you upload your model in Unreal, and let's say you see it from further distance, your texture resolution will decrease. So for example, you had it like 1K, but instead of 1K, it would be like 512 or something. And that would also lead to textures like this UV islands to leak a little bit beside the borders.
Yeah.
And if you have like two UV islands too close to each other, they might leak into each other, and it would be super visible.
Mhm.
And in order to avoid that, usually we keep space between every UV island. But luckily, you don't have to do it manually unless you really want to. But in UV Packmaster, you can just say, okay, so my texture size is 2K and pixel margin is 16. I think that's where you need to do that. But anyways, yes, just watch out for that. And according to your texture resolution, pick appropriate edge padding.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, if you want to texture your stuff with presets, for example, like you have materials inside Substance, maybe you need to make sure that your UV islands rotated correctly, but that's not necessary and it depends on the workflow. But just also, if it's important for you, make sure that they all rotated in the right direction.
Yeah, for example, if you would have like a wood material put on top, that the wood doesn't like point
Yes.
like here, like in this direction and in the other direction or something like that.
Yeah, you would make your life so much easier. You would think this like before. And the last
Okay.
thing, take care of
Texturing.
the
Oh, never mind.
no, it's boring. I didn't do that. Lightmap UV channel usually is like generated, but I don't know. What if you need to do it manually? Probably not. But anyways. And now texturing. Yes,
Texturing,
finally.
yes.
So what you would need to do with all of this stuff that you unwrapped currently, you would just need to select everything, and then you would just need to export this as an FBX, call it something like filter low, then do the same with the high poly, and then you're done. And then like for the texturing process, there are not that many technical requirements as far as I know. The only one that I know and just try to keep in mind that is that with values that you have in the color channel, yeah, try not to go too white and too black. I provided this really handy video which explains it a little bit further why we're not supposed to do that. But in general, just in PBR, try not to go too white and black. And there's actually a tool inside Substance Painter, which you can probably Google because I didn't use it here. But yeah, there is a tool which will basically show you if your values are off. And that's it. For the rest, just go nuts. Put your creativity into colors and everything. There's not many technical steps that you need to watch out for in texturing process. But of course, once you get to exporting this stuff, you need to name your textures correctly. If you want to put them in the game engine afterwards, you would still need to use this guide that I mentioned before in order to name your textures according to it. How you can do that, you can set up a template inside Substance Painter, and basically it will export diffuse with letter like with letter D, which means diffuse. And then it would also pack occlusion, roughness, and metalness into one texture but like into separate channels of this one texture. And then you would also have a normal map.
Right.
And you,
Just super quickly, because in my experience, people are usually pretty confused with those packed maps. Um, they look very funky, but basically, because it's like
yes,
three grayscale maps you pack together, like any RGB image basically consists of like a red channel, a green channel, and a blue channel. And basically, each channel is like more or less grayscale, and they only get like they get combined in the end to like make up the colors. I don't know if I explained it well, but basically you can use that because you only
mhm,
need like grayscale values. You can like pack that in the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel.
yes, exactly. And the way, like, why we're doing this is to save texture memory because you basically having three textures packed in one, and that saves memory,
Yeah,
which is
and
great.
also Unreal, you have also this texture sampler limit. I think 15 or something like that. So if you have
Mm.
more like complex texture shaders with like a lot of textures you want to use, that also saves on that. Because you
Yes.
only need like one texture sampler instead of three, basically.
Yeah, I also heard sometimes people would pack some different stuff in here, so they would maybe like put an emission if they don't have metals or something, right?
Hmm.
I guess just it depends on the workflow, and you can ask your coworkers how you should do that. But in general, that's a pretty common workflow. And yeah, another really handy thing that I struggled for a whole year. That was terrible. So you need to make sure that your textures are named correctly, and the naming should be T, asset name, and let's say, okay, diffuse. But when you export stuff from Substance Painter, it would name all the textures with the material name, and the material name is usually M underscore bread, for example.
Hmm.
But what you can do is you can rename the material inside Substance Painter, and then exports would be with T instead of M, and
Can't you
it's really
change it in
helpful.
the export settings as well? Like if you go like file export, wasn't there like a naming convention thing? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to figure this out actually, so I
Oh
might be
yeah.
kind of dumb. But it usually takes the material name, then it puts like the texture letter at the end, and I wasn't able to figure out how I can replace this M
I think it's
with
the dollar sign texture set where the material name is coming from.
ooh, yeah. Yeah, maybe I will need to Google it a bit more because yeah, that's the solution that I found so far, which is also kind of yeah, like funky. But I guess it works because before that I was just using batch renamer to replace every M with T.
Mhm.
It wasn't fun. Yes, anyways. So texturing is done, and then you import your stuff into Unreal.
Yes,
For
like the
that, you
cute
would
little
need
toast.
to, yeah, yeah. So for that, you would need to go back to Blender. You would need to duplicate everything you have in your low poly baking stuff because that's a little bit different mesh, and we need to work just a little bit more on it.
Mhm.
So you would need to duplicate it, merge it into one if you need it to be just one mesh. And then you would need to make sure that it is named correctly. Oh yeah, another never mind. No, I'm still gonna tell you. So for low baking, I have this triangulate modifier. But when I move on to exporting stuff to Unreal, I usually remove manually, like I would duplicate everything, and then I
Mhm.
would manually remove this triangulate modifier, join everything into one mesh, and then apply triangulate modifier again. Um, because sometimes it's nice to have this export mesh with triangulation not being like already applied still. So, but if you want to do that, it's kind of tedious. So I don't know if you want to do that. So anyway, so you duplicate everything in the low bacon and merge it. So you have just one mesh. Then you need to make sure that it's named correctly.
Mhm.
So it's S underscore toaster. It should have origin at the correct place. So in this case, I think it makes sense to place the origin here in the middle at the bottom. Then you also need to make sure that this model is at the world center that it has scale of 1, and now also we need to make sure that rotation is 0.
Mhm.
Then if you want to, if you need, you can take care of collisions and LODs. We're not going to do that now. And then, yeah, once you export stuff to Unreal, you just need to make sure that you have -X forward, Z up, and your smoothing is set to face. I have it saved as a preset over here,
Mhm.
and it would just set these things automatically, so I wouldn't need to do it like every time.
Oh, I didn't know that was possible.
Oh yeah, it just saves a lot of time because we already have so much stuff that we need to take care of, and if you able to at least have something in preset, that's really cool.
Mhm.
And then, yes, that's pretty much it. Then you would need to import this into Unreal. I wouldn't cover it right now, but what you need to take care of is maybe create a material instance instead of creating like a new material, in case if you have like a master material. And then once you will import textures, make sure to change diffuse or no, diffuse, keep it the same. I think it like imports correctly. The same thing with normal, but with occlusion, roughness, metalness, you need to make sure to change compression setting to masks, and that's it.
Yeah. For that, because I was giving like a lecture about it recently, like a really good rule of thumb is with the color space. So everything that the shader only uses should be linear color space. So that's why you set it to masks in that case. Because like usually what is done to like the images you see, they're altered to fit our vision. Because basically, like in human vision, we can see better like darker values, so like it gets like gamma shifted a bit, and that's
Mhm.
like then as RGB. But we don't want it to be done to our stuff, which is only for the shader, because we don't want it to be changed. Basically, that's why you need to have that different color space there.
Yes, thank you for explaining this. And yes, basically that's it.
Nice. Can I see the toaster again? Oh, it's so cute. Ah!
Yeah, I saw this frog and I said like, oh, I have to do something with that frog. It's so cute.
I love the kind of brush pattern you put on it. Is that like a generator, like a substance designer texture, or did you just
Uh,
like paint it?
I can't even show it. Oh, that's a mess. Like I was in a hurry, and the naming convention is usually the first one that will suffer
Yeah,
if you
same.
read it. So yeah, I think it's
Oh, it sells. Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Ah,
like super dumb, straightforward,
it looks
and it kind
good.
of works, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty. I love the colors you chose. And like the whole like painted look of it. And of course, little frog. So
The-
cute.
oh. Hmm.
Like, does the star have like a function basically? Can you like press on it or something like that?
So my idea was that you can, like, when you have a toaster, you can kind of tweak temperature and how bright your toaster is going to be.
Oh,
And
yeah,
this is the
okay.
thing. So this is like the lowest toasting level, and then you can just tweak it. I don't know how you would like actually tell which one is selected, but who cares? It's stylized,
Yeah.
right?
No, also, who cares? There's a frog on it and a star. Like, I would just buy that in real life, you know? Okay, so I think we are pretty much up with time, but I have some rapid fire questions left. What's your favorite cozy game?
I guess Katamari is really cozy for me. It's also one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
most favorite games.
Oh, I love the
It,
art style.
yeah, it's amazing, and like the music and everything, and it's also so satisfying to roll everyone into this one giant bowl, and it's also really cozy in its art style. So that would be my most favorite one, cozy one.
Nice, nice. Very good pick. What is your real life inspiration and what are like your favorite artists that you're by inspired by? Like maybe your one or two favorite artists. Maybe game artists can also be painters, can be anyone.
Mm-hmm. So for 3D artists is definitely Jasmine
Oh,
Habizai.
yeah.
Yeah, because well, she's the queen. She's super cool. She's a really nice person. I never met her in real life actually, but she's also could be in Cologne, huh? But anyways,
Yeah.
so yeah, her art was really inspirational for me, and actually it also encouraged me to follow like the path of 3D artists because I was worried, oh no, what if I'll pick like stylized art and it might not be as popular as realistic, but it also what I liked the most. But then I saw her and I saw like, yeah, screw it, I will just follow my passion. Yeah, and for 2D artist, I would say Nicholas Cole is my recent inspiration. He worked on Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and I really like his colors and just in general art style.
Nice. Great. Yeah, and I guess you are not really allowed to talk about what you're working on right now, right? With Massive
Yeah,
Miniteam. Is
no,
there
unfortunately.
can you say when you're allowed to talk about it or not even that?
Oh, soonish.
Ooh. Okay, so
That's it.
then let's watch out what Massive Miniteam is gonna announce. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Thank you for making the cute toaster. Thank you for the super nice interview. You now have like, let's
Invited
say
me.
like, yeah, of course. Thank you. You have now like 30 seconds to like a minute to like plug anything you want, any social media. Where can people follow you?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you want to say hi, just say hi. Okay, so I'm usually on Twitter and on basically shoot me up on any platform you will find me. I would love to chat if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi.
Nice. Great. Thank you so much. All right, and all the links are going to be in the description if you want to check out the notes she made for the checklist she basically has and also the add-ons she uses. That's all going to be in the description. And yeah, have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.